Sorry about that, guys. Having some technical difficulties. For some reason, I had the screen sharing app that I was using fail. So we're going to start again, but I'll have to check that out. But we should be good to go. You should be seeing my screen now. Leave comments. It's all good. So back to it. In the 3D here, we're in the 3D environment. This is where we modify, change our sheet metal, open our 3D sheet metal parts and move them into different areas of the software, right? So generally, if you come in, you've got the 3D software. I can move it into a nesting and create a nest on all these parts in the sheet metal property. And we can also from here, before we even do that, we can actually check with the offline bending software to see, hey, can I bend this part at the press brake? Does it have any collisions? Can I simulate it? Make sure there's no collisions. Verify that the finger stops aren't hitting and crashing into the parts and between part and tooling and part, tooling and machine, right? So this is where you come and do that. Just a touch base. Here is where you can import your files. So if I hit browse, you can see I've got stat files, I've got step files, I've got ProEase, Parasolids. So a number of different files there. But with these files, you can do a direct link from SolidWorks and Inventor. So I can have a 3D file open in Inventor or in SolidWorks, and I can pass it straight to the bending software and then pull it back and update the flat pattern from Inventor and SolidWorks. I can also do that with Radan 3D here as well, update the flat pattern so when I nest it, it's all good to go. So there's a little bit about here on the imports. So now that I've got my 3D file, what do I do next? Well, simply come in. I'm going to move over to the Radbend here. You can see I've got some grayed out options here, but I pretty much want to select a part, right? So I've selected this part. You can see it's highlighted a little yellow line around it. You can pick a top face or you can do auto and then simply hit apply. Okay, oops, I didn't unselected it. Hit apply. It'll open up the bending software and pull this 3D file part of this assembly in. So then that'll bring that into the bending software application, right? So give it a second. Might be running a bit slow on my system, streaming through Facebook Live here, right? So another thing, Martin, I know I'll email you. I couldn't get this to go on YouTube Live for some reason, something with the application I was using. So I will download this video and put it on YouTube so you can go ahead and watch that as well, right? So, but here we go, guys. So I've opened it up. I've got the file in here for Radbend for my sheet metal component. And you can see here it's carried in my material thickness and that from the you can see here's a machine. It's added some bends to each of these sections. So if I come in here, I can just pull the screen out a little bit so we can see. And I can pull this one down. Okay, and you can see the steps of my bends there. Right, take note that in here, here's my dimensions. So I'm looking at 15,748 on the width, 21.712 on the length, and I can go ahead and when we apply tooling, you'll probably notice that some of that will change based on the radiuses of the tools, the V opening of the dies, right? So from here, you can select a number of machines, okay? Here I have a drop down, I have different machines in here, so I can run all these different machines. I'm actually going to select my hexagon brake here. It's loaded my top tool system and my lower tool system, right? So in this, I can go ahead and load my tooling, right? So here I've got a compound bend, so it'll do this automatically, right? So you can select the machine, you can change your sequence, you can change it from flat to bent, then add your tools, do your fingers. I don't like doing that. I try to do everything automatically because I just want to do things quick, easy, and fast, right? So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to select automatic. So it's going to look at this and it's going to determine the tool placements, the finger stop placements, what kind of tools it's going to use, okay? Because in Radbend, it's going to do tool optimization. It's going to do automatic finger stops, automatic sequencing. We want everything to be quick and easy, right? Because if you get this part out on the shop floor, in all reality, it may take half an hour for a press brake guy to run it, maybe an hour to do the first setup, right? Especially with all the tooling, all the figuring out. And then he may have to run 5 pieces before he actually gets it right. So now you're looking at 5 scrap pieces, and not only 5 scrap pieces, you're looking at 5 pieces that you either have to run on a punch again, so you have to break into other jobs, or run those 5 pieces again on the laser to get that complete. So from quote to delivery, we've really created a bit of a bottleneck there because now we're behind, okay? So another good thing about Radbend is if you're a designer or an engineer and you're working in the office, you can actually come in and you can check your design before you even get it to the shop floor, right? So, maybe I need to modify that, jump back into 3D, stretch that flange out, move this flange a little bit, and then run it back through the software to simulate it and make sure it goes to where it needs to be, okay? So you'll notice that everything here that was red before has turned black, right? And that's because we've done the next step. So these bends are black because we've assigned the tool setups, and now we need to just simulate this program and run through it. I can stay in this mode here in the finger stop mode, and I can rotate this model around. I can zoom in, I can take a look and see how it is working, how the fingers are, and you can move them, right? You can move it out and then select this button, hit the arrow, and it snaps it back to wherever I want it to snap to, okay? So from here, I'm going to hit simulation, right? So if I hit simulation, it's going to run through, and you're actually going to see the press brake. So I'm going to pause this for a second. So you can see it pulls up the press brake I'm working with. So if you're working with a Safan, you're working with an AccuPress, a Trump, a hexagon press brake, you'll see that it'll have that model of that press brake drawn in the software. So even if I'm looking at it and I'm simulating, I can pull in and rotate around this press brake and check when I'm loading my parts and bending my parts, okay? So if I zoom back out and I rotate this around, right, I can hit there and rotate. Now, you can actually save different views, right? You may want to save up to 5 different views of how you want to see that. So you can actually press the F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 button, and it'll change the different views, maybe a side view, a front view, isometric view. So you can change those different views as well, right? So I'm going to hit play on this. We're going to unpause it. We're going to hit play, and we're going to watch it. I've got material handling on, so it's going to show me, okay, I'm coming down, I'm bending this part, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, rotate that part around and put it back in, and we'll take those two tools there and bend it, right? As it does that, guys, you can see it's running through that. So let me explain. It's going to move down each bend line and make sure and check that there's going to be no collisions. If there was a collision or there was going to be a collision, it would light it and highlight it in here, okay? So, and you'll notice that you can come along and you can hover over the tools and you can see which one it's using, right? So here I've got a BIU tool from Wheeler, OZU bottom tool. And if you look far to the right here, you'll see I've got a silhouette of the tools, of what the tools I'm using as well, okay? And also remember that you can move this tooling around. If you want to move it closer or move it to the side, you can drag it over a little bit as well, okay? So it's still running through that part there, and we'll let it do its thing. And so far, no collisions. That's good. So it's all looking good. Now, if you, I don't know, if you guys, here's a question, and you guys can answer this or reply to it once I post this video on YouTube, or you can put it on the Facebook page there. But if you're using offline bending software, let me know if you're using it, or are you programming it still by hand at the controller, or maybe it's simply you've got a press brake that you don't have any CNC controls on, right? I know we've done some Gilfield press brakes that have no CNC controls, but the customer has a 3D PDF file where he can have that out on a PC at the shop floor, and the guys can still go through and make simple setups and complex setups going off that 3D PDF. The good thing about a 3D PDF is you can actually rotate that model in the 3D PDF on any PC, right? So that's another option there. Another option is I see people retrofitting their machines with new controls, right? Or people looking at new press brakes maybe. So as you can see, it's all processed. You can see everything here. We've got no red. That's what we want to see. We've simulated. We've got no issues. So with this part, you can actually hit this button here, and it'll update that 3D file inside of Radan, and it'll update the flat pattern on that 3D model. Or you can simply come and hit unfold, and it'll create a DXF that you can go and put on another machine, right? So say you're running a water jet, but maybe your water jet just takes a DXF, so you just want to output it as a DXF and load that DXF in your water jet. So it'll actually save the DXF, right? So all that's good. We should be good to go. And you'll notice on my dimensions here that they may have changed on this one here. I can't remember what it was. But here we can also come in here and we can do a print preview, right? So if I do a print preview, I can create a setup sheet, because sometimes we want a setup sheet so we can send it out to the guys on the floor. So we'll grab a setup sheet here, and I'll just simply grab that one. It's an old one. It's making a snapshot of all the different view settings, but because I didn't have any selected, it's just probably using the same view. And it'll create these snapshots and put them in my setup sheet. Okay. So there we go. And I don't know if you can hear that, but apparently someone's cutting the grass outside. Nice. So, oh well. So here's my setup sheet. So my setup sheet is telling me material thickness, the gauge or the thickness of the part. I'm using steel. I do like to have the date and my name on it to say, hey, I'm the one that created this. And here's all my setup. So it's giving me the punch parts, the start position, and then setup 1, it's giving me the die parts or the bottom dies and the start positions and the length of the bottom dies I'm using for my first setup. So even if you don't have a CNC press brake, you could still use this to set up a manual non-CNC press brake, right? So if I skip through this and we run through here again, you can see I've got a defined flat pattern, and here's a little 3D image of my part. Here comes the length and the width. So if I scroll over one more time, so here's my setup. So this is where I'm saying it's useful that you can change the views and change the different views on the different finger setups, right? So here you can see, here's all my information I'm going to put in my press brake if I was manually creating this. And it's telling me how I'm going to run this. On most CNC press brakes, you'll see there are 3D files now where when you create a program, you can load that program to the press brake. You can drag that 3D file around and rotate it on the machine controller. The technology is amazing these days. Right, so here you can see once I've done my first bend here, I can move into my second one, turn it 180 degrees and do the other bend, right? So that's all in your setup sheets there. And it just keeps going through. So we'll close that. And then I'm just going to save this because I can actually save this file and reopen it if I wanted to reopen it again, okay? Another thing is you can actually come in and say you want to use this tool setup again for something else. You can actually come in here and save the tool configuration. So when you save the tool configuration, I can open up another part, but I can open that tool configuration, right? And say, load this part. Let's do this. So, all right. So now I'm going to close this. No, I'm not going to save the changes. And then I'm back into the Radan world and back into my 3D project. Now, if I was to update and the 3D model based on Radbend here of what I did with my tooling, you would see based on the radius on those tools, you would see a change in the radius design, okay? So therefore, once you've done that, when you go to unfold it into a nest, it would unfold into a nest and all your flat patterns would be correct, okay? So that's Radbend in a nutshell, offline bending. I'm not sure how you guys are doing your bending now, but I just thought it would be good to share what you can do with offline bending. And you can do automatic tooling once again, automatic sequencing, and you can you can actually do batch bend as well. We have batch bending, so you could take this whole all the 3D files, drag them into a folder, hit start, and you could process all your 3D files that you need for bending. I've got several customers who do that now. I've got one they heavily use batch bending. They actually have batch bending set up on one PC, and they have one guy who goes through and does all the bending on some of their parts that maybe they needed a joggle tool or something like to that effect, and they didn't have the joggle tool, so it failed that part. So this is where that would come in handy, right? So if you want anything or want to get a demo, feel free to reach out. Go to Radan.com or Hexagon.com, and you'll find all the products and related products to our software solutions for manufacturing. And request a demo. Maybe you've got some parts that you'd like to see in a demo done for you, where you'd like them to take a couple of files and say, hey, process this for me, right? So anyway, stay safe and be good out there. All right. I know it's a new world we're living in, but I believe software and the way machines are these days is offline bending is making your factory smarter, right? So, and that's what we want to do is make our factory smarter and cut down on the bottlenecks, right? So, thanks. Have a great day. Hopefully, I'll get this Facebook Live sorted out so next time I don't have to start another live after I started the original one. All right. So, have a great day. Oh, and have a great Easter weekend as well, everybody. Thanks.